So, let's have a look at things that do work, and this is guaranteed to work. Like the other ones are guaranteed not to work, this stuff actually works. And when I look at the students that take that path, that end up doing phenomenal things, not only in school, but outside of school, here are the things that they consistently do. Number one is that they know their outcome. They know what it is that they're trying to achieve. Knowing your outcome, or what is going to come out of whatever it is that you're doing, is so important, because if you don't know what you're doing, it means that you end up doing the wrong thing or doing something different, and it takes you completely off track. So you need to be clear. I can't tell you how many times we've given out an assignment and we go through it in class, and then we check in on the students and say to them, "How you going on that assignment?" And they go, "Yeah, really good, I'm doing this stuff here." And I'll say to them, "Why are you doing that?" And they say, "Because it's in the assignment." I said, "No, it isn't." I said, "Yeah, it's in the assignment. You know, Sarah told me that it's in the assignment, so it's in the assignment." And I said, that's interesting, because I wrote it, and I wasn't with Sarah when we wrote it, and apparently Sarah knows the assignment better than I do. "Isn't it in there?" And I say, "No, it isn't." "Have you read it?" "Yeah, I read it. We read it in class together." And I said, No. Have you read the assignment?" And they go, "No, I didn't." "So why are you doing that? Isn't that what we're meant to do?" "No." And what the students done is like wasted 2 weeks of time that you haven't got a lot of on something doing that they don't know what it is, because they didn't check in to know what their outcome was to start with. So with your task skills, when you're studying, with all of it, be clear on what it is that you're supposed to be doing, because otherwise you could go completely off track. But knowing what you're supposed to do is only step one, because the next step is that you've actually got to do something about it. You've got to take some action. Because you can be totally clear, and sometimes we get this with students where they know everything, they know all the steps to the assignment, they can tell you off heart all the things that they need to do. And we say to them, "Right, what have you done?" "I haven't started yet, I'm too busy procrastinating." "All right, and how long would you like to keep procrastinating for?" Just enough until I start feeling overwhelmed and the stress really kicks in." "All right." And then we check up on them, and how's that working for you? And it's like it never works out well. So you need to do stuff about it. So you need to take action. Step number 3 is probably the biggest thing that students avoid doing. So we refer to this as feedback. Feedback is information that lets you know where you're going. All right? So my wife's cousin, Stephen, he's a pilot in the Air Force. I was at the RAF base on Saturday, actually. He took me into his plane, and he flies the Hercules planes and the roulettes and all that kind of stuff. And so I was chatting to him some time ago about how the planes work, and I was saying, when you go on these long missions, where you're going overseas for peacekeeping missions and all that kind of stuff, are you like steering the plane for the whole amount of time? He goes, "God, no, it gets too tiring, and there's so many other things that you have to do." And I said, "So who steers the plane?" He goes, "Autopilot." And I said, "What's autopilot?" He goes, "Well, autopilot is a gizmo," because I'm technical and all this. It's a little gizmo that tells the plane where it should be going. "So how's it work?" He goes, "Well, basically we say to the gizmo, we're here and we want to go there, so you need to get us there." And they steer the plane up into the air, and they point it in the general direction, and then they click autopilot, which takes over. And I said to him, "So does the plane start here and it just goes in a nice straight line and gets to here without any issues?" He goes, "God, no." And I said, "Why not?" He goes, "Because when you get up into the air, you've got all sorts of stuff that knocks the plane around. So you've got turbulence, you've got wind, you've got weather, you've got all sorts of stuff. So what happens is that the plane takes off and it goes like this, and then wind comes or something and it knocks it off course. And it goes that way." And sometimes our students, they know their outcome and they start off and they get some piece of information, knocks them off course, and the next thing, instead of going there, they're just going like this, happily, working on something that's not even part of the assignment. And I said, "So what happens?" He goes, "Well, that's where autopilot kicks in." Because what autopilot does, it goes, "I've left here and I'm going there, but now I'm going this direction. Right, I need to calibrate," and it puts itself back on course. And then something else knocks it and it goes in another direction and brings it back on course again. And I said, so it doesn't really go in a straight line at all? He goes, no, it's almost like you're zigzagging your way across. And he said to me, it gets feedback by the GPSs and all that kind of stuff to know where it's at. So feedback, knowing after you've taken action, knowing what's happening and calibrating yourself is so critical to your success. And our students, sadly, avoid getting feedback. Because feedback means that they get told, here are the things that you need to do better, and they don't want to have to work any harder because, I thought I was finished, or I don't really want to work that hard at it. So they avoid getting the feedback, the information that gets them back on track to do their best. So, after the feedback, step number 4, you make adjustments, just like the autopilot does. And I like to think of it in the context of what we do here at school. There's one of 3 options. Option 1 is that you make adjustments until you achieve whatever it is that you set out to achieve in the first place. So in the context of a music student, they say, I want to learn to play this song. You start taking action, you start learning on it, you get lots of feedback, you get knocked around a little bit, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going until you've learned the song. Or option 2 is the task is due. Sometimes what happens is that you don't get it to the best of what you think your ability is because the task is due. And if you had another 3 weeks, you'd get it better, but hey, it's due today. So you've just got to deal with it today. Or the other option is that you've done the best that you can with the time and resources that you've got available to you at that point in time. Because if you had something else that might make it better, okay, you probably would do it better. But if you haven't, you haven't. You just got to work with what you've got. So doing your assignment, if you've got like a little baby brother or sister and they're crying all night and it's due the next day and you just can't do any more because, they won't stop, hey, that's what you're working with. You just keep going because that's the best that you can do. The last step, which is so often overlooked, girls, is that you need to validate what you do. You need to take a moment where you look at yourself and you go, hey, good on you, you've done your best, rock on. And it's up to you to do that, because if you're waiting for your mark to let you know whether you've done well or not, sometimes you work your bum off and you get a low grade. It happens. But the grade isn't really the thing that matters. What matters is what happened along the way. So these 5 steps, knowing your outcome, taking some action, then noticing whatever feedback comes along, and you keep making changes until this thing is due or until you've run out of time or whatever it is, and then at the end of all of it, you just go, hey, well done, rock on, give yourself a tap on the back, go and have some chocolate, have an ice cream, do something to celebrate your own efforts. Because if you don't celebrate your own efforts, one of the strategies that end up happening is that you're never good enough at anything because you're never taking the time to really validate and really truly authenticate what you're doing. So take those 5 steps, girls. And you'll find that regardless of the marks, what will end up happening is that you start to develop a really good, resourceful, long-term, empowering strategy for getting stuff done, regardless of what it is. I'm talking about at school and outside of school. And if you do this long enough, well enough, you'll end up finding that you get the marks anyway, because that is going to lead you to getting whatever marks it is that you want for whatever your personal best, because that's how the system works. So to finish up with, guys, the real aim of the HSC is to prepare students for life after school by instilling in them resourceful and empowering strategies for success that will help prepare them for their next roller coaster ride. Remember that at the start of all of this, you hop on, you're in this little carriage, you're strapped in, you're going to go up and down, you're going to freak out, you're going to love it, all of it. It's got to come to an end. And before you know it, you're going to be lining up on the next line to go on the next ride, which might be university, it might be TAFE, it might be business, it might be whatever. You might go off and get married and have 15 children. I don't know. Whatever your ride's going to be. And I can tell you, those rides are way more demanding than the HSC is, but at the moment, you're strapped into this and you can only see that little hill. So I'd like to thank you guys for coming and making the effort to be here, and for hopefully learning, and I trust that you've gotten a whole stack of value about what it's going to take for you to do your best. And that's really what this whole thing's about. Your teachers, your parents, the people around you, the CERT community is all about getting your best. Sometimes we've got to push you too hard because we don't know if we're still getting the best out of you. Sometimes we might not push you enough and we'll sort of up it a little bit, and your parents will do the same. But understand, girls, that we're ultimately trying to get the best out of you with whatever it is that we know how to get that out of you. So thank you guys, I really appreciate it. Do we have any comments or questions, or anyone want to ask anything?
Perhaps just before, can I say a huge thank you to Marcel for being here. And it's something that I said that was a little bit different, but hopefully it's given you a few things to think about. Hopefully for each and every young lady here, you've got some strategies now that you can put into play straight away. And perhaps it's a question I can ask you when I see you in the playground. Are you overwhelmed, or have you procrastinated, or have you been hitting the waste time button? But at least you've got something to think about to help you forward on that journey. And as I say, thank you to Marcel for doing that. I think you see that he's put a lot of himself into that, and hopefully it's an ongoing discussion where we can actually take this a little bit further and hopefully do exactly what we say at CERT. You see the banner in the school office that says aspire to great heights. You've heard me say, I want you to be the best, most confident, most articulate young lady that you can be, who's going to be able to use their education to open up a whole raft of possibilities. That's what it's all about. So can I say thank you?